probably for a very long time. It's all about a young man who was celebrating graduation. So you know what the kids do, they all write on each other's shirts and all those nice messages. And anyway, this turned into a complete disaster for one 15-year-old whose shirt was covered in racial insults and abuse. It was the son of Juliet Ryan, who's also the CEO of Working Action Group, and she's in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know this is very difficult because this only happened yesterday. Tell us exactly what occurred and where we can. What was written on your son's shirt?
Well, my son was leaving school early because of the fact that he had his final exam, and he had gathered in an area of the school called the Cloud, where it had been arranged that they were all going to write on each other's shirts farewell messages, what I thought would have been farewell messages, and my son walked home from school with his shirt covered in these farewell messages. And when he came home, he came through the door and he was bouncing and very happy that it was his last day of school. And I was really happy until I was reading his, sorry, it affects me quite a lot still. I was reading his shirt, and then I looked at the back of his shirt, and underneath the neck area, it had the N-word written on it. And then it had coon written on it there, and then it had coon written on it again, and then it had go back to the jungle written on it.
I mean, and presumably, well, he didn't know. He wore this home. So had he ever had any racist abuse in school prior to this incident?
It was something that I had raised with the school previously, and those incidents were, I could say, were taken but not seriously as I thought that they should have been, and I don't think that they were dealing with the undercurrent and the overt racism that existed. My son suffered for almost 3 years.
I can't imagine, actually, I mean, I really can't imagine what that does to a young man, coming home and finding that.
He was distraught. He's traumatised. That's why he's not here today. I was obviously quite tearful because I saw it as branding, I saw it as brandishing, brandisement in the worst sense. It's racial harassment, it's racial hatred, it's racial abuse, it's against the law.
I mean, I'm stunned.
Yeah,
I'm stunned that this would happen amongst young people in today's. I thought young people were meant to be much more tolerant and across all these sort of issues.
We'd like to think so, yeah. And I think that there are so many solutions and possibilities. I was just reading about a great new initiative that has been launched by one of the universities here in this country, which is Dr. Wilson's Diversity Health Check, which is available to all organisations to use. So we can check these things, but we've got to acknowledge that it exists, because I had to take my youngest child out of school for the same reason, and I went through all of the procedures, everything that I had to do, I went through with the school, going to the independent review panel, only for them to tell me that they found it very, very difficult to identify any racism.
But what have they actually done? What evidence is there that they've actually tried to address this, the school I'm talking about here?
The school at the moment, I had a meeting with the school. I actually put the shirt on. I was in tears and I was very upset, and I pulled myself together and I went to the school and I had a meeting with the headmaster, and he was sincerely apologetic about what my son had been through, and he did say that he was going to take it very seriously. But we had a candid conversation about how they identify unconscious and conscious bias. We had a very candid conversation about the interventions that the school need to put into place to stop this from occurring, because he did have my previous complaints on record there with the safeguarding officer, and my son did not feel safeguarded enough to approach the school or even to tell them who the culprits were of his previous attacks of racism, having jokes every single day, very terrible racist jokes that he would tell me that were said.
Oh dear. It's just appalling.
I mean, it beggars. I mean,
Appalling.
it's one of those. I mean, it's the way I say it's so disgusting. Is it just completely beggars belief? I can't get my head around how this has happened. But I guess that's part of the problem. You know, if schools are saying, well, you know, we're not seeing this directly ourselves, therefore we don't quite know how to address it. And I mean, obviously, you've got the evidence now. It is clearly it's clearly there and clearly causing a lot of harm and a lot of damage.
Yeah, it is. The thing is that the damage isn't just caused to my son as an individual. I had my daughter crying down the phone. She is a really well-renowned blogger. She does culture, and she's in Jamaica at the moment doing media interviews. And she was crying down the phone because of the pain that she knows that, you know, her brothers had to suffer. And this is 2018. There are so many measures that we can put into place that can eliminate this because it's growing.
In terms of measures, I mean, it's a case of confronting this head on, is it? And with sort of tough education almost.
Well, this is why I say that, firstly, organisations need to do the first step of actually acknowledging that, you know, racism exists and that this exists in their establishments, in their workplaces, and in every walk of life. And by doing so, they can actually put certain, like I said, tests, analysis, and training and coaching into place to eliminate it, because we can all learn. That's how we embrace each other. That's what diversity is about. It's about appreciating each other's differences.
Are you confident that other black and ethnic minority children at your son's school will no longer face this type of discrimination as a consequence of what's happened to your son?
No, not at all. I'm not confident at the moment. I'm suing my younger son's school, which is also in Clacton-on-Sea, and I had to remove him from the school because of the level of racism that he faced. We formed a group called the Parent Action Group to stop it, to alleviate it, and it's just becoming. I can't describe how terrible it is, but everyday existence is now becoming terrible as a parent when you can't safeguard your child within a school.
Yeah,
We should be able to.
We really need to point out, obviously the schools aren't here to defend themselves this morning, though we would, of course, love to hear from you and get your perspective on all of this. But whatever their perspective is, actually, whatever their perspective, the reality is that, you know, you and your family, but primarily your 15-year-old son, a boy, left with these sort of memories. I mean, these are mental scars. How do you help him recover from that? I mean, we should say as well, you know, there's going to be there's support from us. There's going to be a lot of support from people watching this morning, thinking this is just outrageous and wanting to give him a cuddle, frankly, and tell him it's going to be all right.
He really needs it, and I think, from the family's perspective, we feel like it's going back in time, and it's opening old wounds that I faced. Severe racism. I went to school in Essex also, so it's affecting me in it's affecting me in more ways than one, because it's sorry. Racism needs to be eradicated, and it's not right. It's not fair. My son shouldn't. Because I shouldn't have to suffer like this.
Experienced it as a child, and now you've seen history repeat itself with your own child. No, but thank you very much for coming in and speaking to us, because people do need to know that this is still happening in 2018.
It hurts so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's all do what we can to try and get rid of this. It's, you know, I'm so disgusted, and because, you know, the idea that racism exists, the idea that people would perhaps think that me and you shouldn't work together, or it just.
But it is out there.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Your thoughts, please, if you would, on Twitter this morning. Do lots of love to your son. Really, sincerely so. Thank you very much indeed.
Don't apologise.